She broke up with the man she loved just because his sister couldn't speak good English. And then the unbelievable happened. Hey guys, come with me as we unfold this fascinating Nigerian movie that is full of drama and life lessons. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this one. But before we dive in, please subscribe for more captivating movies from us. The movie opens with a young, elegant, and beautiful lady named Trish who just got engaged. She happily showed off her ring to her elder sister and her mother. Everyone was happy for her, as her mother began singing the praises of her fiancé, a medical doctor who studied in Europe. But her elder sister, Tony, felt irritated and disgusted by everything their mother was saying. She expressed her concerns to Trish, but Trish mistook her for being jealous and walked away, mocking her. The next scene follows a handsome young man named Aswin on a call with his friend before rushing off to pick up his elder sister and best friend from the airport. Just then, his fiancée Trish arrived, and they embraced. He excused himself to go pick them up while she waited. Hours later, Aswin returned with his sister Ivy and his friend Jacob. Trish welcomed them warmly. Ivy was so happy to see her soon-to-be sister-in-law and was overwhelmed by her beauty. But as soon as she spoke, Trish was shocked and embarrassed by the way Ivy, who had just returned from Europe, expressed herself. Feeling irritated, Trish excused herself to her room. Later, as Trish was set to leave, Ivy kept hugging and praising her, but Trish remained cold and irritated. Aswin noticed her attitude and encouraged her, reminding her of his sister's good heart. Trish tried to stay calm. Back in the house, Aswin met with Ivy, who couldn't stop talking about how beautiful Trish was, but worried she didn't like her. Aswin assured her it was just surprise and nothing negative, leaving her relieved. The following day, Aswin and his sister visited Trish's family to discuss wedding plans. Trish welcomed her fiancé but ignored Ivy when she leaned in for a hug. Their parents soon joined, and Ivy greeted them warmly in Nigerian Pidgin English, an act that disgusted Trish's mother. Aswin then shared a heartfelt story of how Evie had been like a mother to him since the death of their parents, how she saw him through school and supported him. Ivy confirmed it, but as she spoke, Trish and her mother were irritated and embarrassed by her language. They excused themselves to get drinks, while Tony remained comfortable with Ivy. In the kitchen, Trish's mom expressed her disappointment, saying she expected more from Ivy, who had just returned from Europe. She insisted Ivy shouldn't be part of the wedding so her friends wouldn't be embarrassed, and they plotted how to make it happen. Back in the living room, Aswin announced that the wedding would hold in a month because of Ivy's limited leave. Trish's mother quickly suggested postponing, but Ivy pleaded to keep it within the month so she could attend her only brother's wedding. After disagreements, Trish's father approved the one-month plan, leaving everyone excited, except his wife, whose plans had been ruined. On their way home, Ivy expressed to her brother that Trish and her mother didn't seem to like her. Aswin reassured her that they were only trying to get comfortable. Later that day, Aswin happily asked Jacob to be his best man, and he accepted. That night, he and Trish had a lovely phone call, during which she informed him that she and her family would be coming over for the first round of wedding planning. The following day, Ivy welcomed Trish, her mother, and her sister. Only Tony embraced her. The others ignored her. In the kitchen, Ivy bonded with Tony as they spoke freely in Pidgin English until Trish interrupted. Back in the living room, Trish and her mother dominated the planning, dismissing Ivy's suggestions, especially about including her brother's favorite colors, calling them classless and irrelevant. Humiliated, Evie walked away while they continued, unbothered. Back home, Tony scolded Trish for disrespecting her future sister-in-law, calling her behavior and their mother's attitude disgusting. Trish got offended and walked away. That night, Ivy was visibly unhappy, but refused to tell Aswin what happened, even when he asked. Later, she finally opened up about the disrespect from Trish and her mother. But Aswin brushed it off lightly, assuring her he would sort it out. But here's the question. How long can true love survive when pride and family rejection stand in the way? The next day, after Aswin dropped off Trish, she pleaded with him to talk to his sister about stepping up her English, just to meet her mother's standards and expectations, and also to avoid embarrassment before her friends. For the sake of peace, he innocently agreed. Thereafter, she left. Back home, ASEGUN confided in Jacob about what Trish had said. But Jacob wasn't supportive, warning him that he was only creating excuses to please her and should be ready for worse to come. They joked around a little before leaving. Days later, ASEGUN, Jacob, and Ivy prepared to visit Trish's house. Both men praised and admired how beautiful Ivy looked before they set off. At Trish's house, Tony and Trish welcomed them warmly before heading to the dining table. At the dining, Ivy requested to eat her swallow with her hand, just like Trish's father. Trish and her mother felt embarrassed and irritated, but the rest, including Tony, joined her. Later in the living room, Ivy opened up to Trish's father, recalling how she raised ASEGUN all by herself after their parents' death. She narrated how, as a little girl, she hustled on the streets selling food to raise money for his scholarship exam, how she cared for him when he was sick, until the day he brought home the good news that he had been selected to study in Europe. She celebrated his success with joy. In the present, ASEGUN expressed his gratitude, sharing how he finished his master's degree abroad, settled in, and later sent for Ivy to join him. Trish's father was impressed and happy to have such a hard-working young man as his son-in-law. Just then, Trish and the rest joined them, and shortly after, they all left. The following day, ASEGUN was unhappy with Trish for increasing the number of wedding guests without considering his finances. Unfortunately, all Trish cared about was her mother's status and pleasing her friends. Helpless and frustrated, ASEGUN had no choice but to accept her decisions for the sake of peace. The next day, Trish, her mother, and Tony came over to ASEGUN's place, where Ivy was waiting. Ivy gifted Trish a wedding gown she had bought from Europe. At first, Trish was excited about it, but when her mother demeaned the dress as low class, Trish quickly changed her mind and rejected it. Ivy still tried to encourage her, but Trish rudely dismissed it, saying she needed something more classy, not worthless. Embarrassed, Ivy walked away, while Tony scolded her mother and sister. Trying to keep peace, Ivy politely asked Trish for a private word. There, she humbly asked why Trish and her mother hated and disregarded her. She even apologized, but Trish remained proud, saying she didn't hate her, she just didn't like the gown. Ivy was heartbroken, explaining how she had promised herself and her brother that she would be the one to buy his bride's wedding dress. She revealed she had gone through stress to get it from a well-known designer, Pronovius, in Europe. Still unmoved, Trish told her that her mother would get her the right dress instead, and walked away, leaving Ivy in tears. Later that day, Tony calmly advised Trish not to allow their mother to ruin her engagement before it even started, but Trish brushed her off. The following day, in his bedroom, ASEGUN was frustrated and angry as the wedding budget kept rising daily. He blamed Trish and her mother, expressing his concerns to Jacob, who comforted him and advised him to think carefully. Meanwhile, Ivy confided in Jacob too, saying she felt helpless and tired of the situation. She begged him to help her brother make the right decision. The next day, Trish and her mother continued wedding planning with Ivy by their side. Just then, Ivy's phone rang. It was her boss. She excused herself to take the call. Moments later, Trish's mother went upstairs and overheard Ivy speaking fluent European accented English. Shocked, she ran downstairs to tell Trish that Ivy had been deceiving them all along. Unaware, Ivy continued her call and returned shortly after. Immediately, Trish and her mother accused her of lying about her speech. Ivy boldly explained that she only spoke like that to her boss out of respect, but with family, she preferred to be free in her natural way. At that moment, ASEGUN and Jacob walked in. Trish bluntly told ASEGUN to warn his sister not to embarrass them again. This provoked Ivy, who passionately defended herself, saying she was in Nigeria, her mother's land, and had no reason to fake herself. Trish and her mother raised their voices, insisting she must speak better English so their friends wouldn't be embarrassed. Unable to take it anymore, Ivy walked away in tears. ASEGUN tried to follow, but she asked him to leave her alone. Then, in a shocking turn, ASEGUN turned to Trish. After rebuking her harshly for insulting his sister, he called off the engagement and asked her to leave his house. Trish, stunned, walked away as her mother ran after her. When they arrived home, Trish broke down, hugging her father as she told him the engagement had been called off. She ran into her room in tears, leaving everyone in shock. Tony immediately blamed their mother, but her father calmly told her to leave while he handled it. He then confronted his wife, expressing his deep disappointment in her actions. But here's the suspenseful twist. Was it truly Ivy's bad English that ruined the engagement, or was it pride, selfishness, and a mother's obsession with status? In Trisha's room, Tony consoled her and assured her that everything was going to be fine, leaving her feeling relieved. That night, Aswin was deep in thought and couldn't sleep. Everything seemed overwhelming, and he didn't know what to do. The following day, Trish ignored her mother and went straight to Tony, sharing her remorse and saying she was ready to make things right. Her mother felt abandoned and confronted her, but Trish angrily told her to stay away so she would not mislead her anymore. Embarrassed, her mother walked away, leaving the two sisters together. In the living room, Trisha's father confronted his wife about her attitude. He reminded her of where he picked her from, saying she had no class and had never even dreamed of marrying a reputable man. Yet now she was claiming class and standards. He told her to stop and wished their daughter would learn her lesson before it was too late. He then walked away, leaving her to reflect. At Aswin's house, Ivy pleaded with him to forgive Trish and give her a second chance. But it seemed Aswin had given up on their love because of the disrespect shown to the one person he called family. Still, Ivy begged him to reconsider, leaving him thoughtful. Later, Aswin asked Jacob what he thought about Trish if they got back together, but Jacob simply encouraged him to do what was right and assured him of his support. That night, Ivy met Jacob in his room and confided in him about Trisha's rejection of the wedding dress she had bought for 20,000 euros. Jacob praised her for everything she had done, for extending her love for her brother to anyone he loved, even giving Jacob himself a roof over his head in Europe when his girlfriend had chased him out. He thanked her and assured her everything would be okay, leaving her relieved and happy. Still that night, in Aswin's room, he called Trish. After forgiving her, they both expressed how much they missed each other and promised to see the next day. They ended the call happy and thankful. The following day, Aswin visited Trish as promised. Remorseful, she sincerely apologized to him and promised to change. She accepted his sister for who she was and admitted that her mother had almost destroyed their relationship. She vowed not to let such happen again. Convinced, Aswin forgave her, and they embraced before leaving together. He took her home, where Ivy happily embraced and welcomed her without any grudge or offense. Days later, Trish welcomed both families to her home and joyfully shared the good news that she and Aswin were back together and that the wedding would still hold. She added that she and her husband would now do what worked best for them, leaving everyone excited. There, she politely asked Ivy to give her the wedding gown she had bought. Happy and fulfilled, Ivy gave it to her. Trish then turned to Tony, apologized, and politely asked her to be her maid of honor. Tony happily accepted. Everyone was glad and reunited as one big family, as her father blessed their union. Trish bonded with Ivy as they happily went to the kitchen. Finally, after the wedding, Ivy and Jacob prepared to leave as Trish and Aswin saw them off. Ivy gave Trish some words of advice, and Aswin assured her that by the end of the year, he and his wife would move to Europe, so they would not miss each other too much. They embraced warmly as Aswin drove them to the airport. The moral lesson of this movie is that true love is built on respect, humility, and acceptance, not pride, class, or status. Family unity and forgiveness will always be stronger than pride and pretense. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button for more captivating movies from us. See you next time. Bye!